systems performance probably was the nearest thing that almost caused launch to be pulled. So because we didn't understand, you see, because we had these guys who were doing the systems performance for us, and I only discovered afterwards that they'd actually come from a different planet. Because they would sort of say things about the performance, and we wouldn't understand what it was they were telling us. You know, they'd give us loads of information. They'd give us and nice documents and so forth, and we'd be saying, "Is this good or is this bad?" We just couldn't tell. And there was one point where they told me, you know, customer search or something to do with customer search was taking 14 seconds or something like that. And I would go along to the board and give the report on systems performance and say, major issue, customer search, 14 seconds. And we'd have really serious discussions about do we pull launch and what's that going to, are we going to have to launch in January and what's that going to do to the media spend and the adverse PR in the marketplace. And then I go back to these guys and say, so have we managed to push down the customer performance thing below 14 seconds? And they would say, no, we've got timers in there to keep it at 14 seconds because we want to simulate what it's like for real users. So I say, okay, so the customer search bit, how long does that take? Oh, sub-second, they'd say. So I'd go back to the board and say, what I briefed you on last week, that was bollocks. And I think we got to about 5 days before the press launch when we were still having systems performance issues, and it was coming down step change. So every time we'd do something, we'd add some indexes, and the time would halve. We'd do something else, and the time would halve again. But the times that we had were still not making it a usable system, and we knew it would get there. And so the board just needed to know. They needed someone they could look at and say, is it going to be there? Because if it isn't, we'll pull the press thing, and if it is, we'll go with it. So they said to me, is it going to be there? So I said, I'll go and find out. So I had a conversation with Chris, and I said, what do you reckon? I didn't tell him this context. I just sort of had a general chat. How's it going? What do you reckon, that performance stuff? And he said, this shouldn't be a problem. So I went back and I said, I've looked into it in detail, and I don't see a problem with that. And luckily, they didn't say, how do you know? Because I'd have just said, well, Chris told me, so go and ask him. And it was all right, and it was always going to be all right, and we knew that because right up front, Pete Marsden had said one of his criteria for selecting this thing is he wants to be able to go somewhere and say, there's 1,000 associates with millions of customers using this system, and if he can go there and point at it and poke it and know that it's real, then he knows that whatever blips we have along the way, this thing is going to perform. So we knew it was going to perform eventually. It was just translating that to the board was really quite a painful issue. So we launched. We launched on 11th of October. We built the call center system, now used by about 1,000 associates in the call center from scratch. Actually, not just from scratch, from selection in 20 weeks.